with their fans, their friends, and off we go to the course. James, I want to pass it on to you.
Yeah, so the Kawi River, a thing of legend. Definitely the home of many a clash. Up at the men's start here, 5.4 k's from the Stone Jetty up there. It's a beautiful, airy, quiet start. Never much conditions up there. They charge down to Rabbit Rocks, which is where the West Bank starts to get its advantage. That's the inside line down this bank. The advantage continues until just beyond. Very little landmarks for the crews to isolate. That lonely tree is your only landmark to make you understand how far down this track you are. The dogleg continues, you can see there, into the ladies start, and then for the first time the East Bank gets its advantage. Ladies start, that's where we saw the second clash of St Albans and St John's. Shooting range, this is where a lot of the, if crews can get through there together, really a small dogleg again into the East Bank, and again very few landmarks. The big white jetty there, the killing fields, big sandbank starts to come into play. The first time the sandbanks are relevant. We come through into the corner. Your entry angle into Biscay Bay, we've said it all weekend, is critical. Today slightly less so with a tailwind, but you really want to close the door if the race is still on the way here. Sandbanks across Biscay Bay won't be in play. Tailwind will be a pretty quick run. The tide will be starting to probably neutralize. As we exit the bay, you've got a long corner. If you are side by side here, it is a big advantage to the crew on West Bank. And at that point, you start to sniff home. You through Shipwreck Corner, long, slow corner, lining you up for the corner. The jetties here can be troublesome. We generally get within 30 centimeters of the blades on this long corner. You really do want to tuck in, and particularly in the first half of the corner. Release the corner into the small bridge, 2 lines. Today lots of water. I suspect unless they're side by side, they will go through they will shoot the bridge, and then it's about a 750 meter dash from there under the main arches and finishing outside the ski boat club. So an amazing course. As we said yesterday, this is where legends are made. We can see.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, the main event, the moment you've all been waiting for. So we see, these two crews, storylines galore. So let's start with the coaches. Chris Painter, we'll talk through the coaches before we go into the crews before we go into the coaches. Rhett Zillen and under 16 coxing down the Kawi. He took this crew down the head of the Charles, so they know what it's like to run a river. The stroke, Nick de Kaiser, under 15 record holder, 2:59 in the Oct. Giacomo Riccardi, number 7, an exceptional aerobic beast. Dan Bernard comes from good rowing stock. His dad, Ben Bernard, won the Silver Skulls. He was in the second 8 last year and has made the step up. Ethan Pritchard tried to make the Junior World squad, just missed out, but was in an extremely fast double. Anchoring the boat there at 5. Troy Zillen at number 4, making the step up from the stroke of the second 8 to really anchor the boat there in the middle. He goes hard, he goes long. He's the first to go and the last to blow. Connor Hurst at 3. Junior World's athlete, a lot of pedigree there. This crew has been together. Some of these boys have done a lot of hard training and a lot of hard racing together, so that glue is really going to hold them. Zaid Dawoodi at 2, made the boat quite late this year, but Zaid has done exceptionally well to get into this boat. Byron Sikiotis at Bar represented South Africa through the Sasru squad, so I think this Benny's crew, steered by Rhett Zillen, stroked by de Kaiser, coached by Chris Painter, coached Jeppy last year, coached the junior men's Cox Force, so he knows his way around boat race and he knows how to coach a top quality crew, and these boys are exceptionally well conditioned and row really well. We move to St Stithians College, coached by Atin Kosi Lekani in Tika Mokolomba. The Cox, he's been tutored by 2 masters of the art of steering down the Kawi, Ati and Welcome, so we can expect to see an excellent line again from him like he did yesterday. He won't be bullied. Nathan Schmidt, the Cox, Nick Duffin at 7, Miles LeBurn and Dylan Taylor, 2 absolute engines at 5 and 6. Aidan van Brechen at 4, Sheldon Krishnasamy, an exceptionally smooth oarsman. A storyline there is a bit of a grudge match. He made the switch earlier this year to go from St Benedict's to St Stithians, so he'll be looking to really throw it down, no extra motivation needed. Christopher Swart at 2, Sean Michael Stradham, and that will be the St Stithians crew boys college crew that will look to do battle with St. Benedict's now. So we're going to cross over now to Markel with a quick interview as we wait for the start.
We've got our two ladies who have come from the Holy Rosary crew, came first in the heats yesterday, second in the finals today. Ladies, what an excellent race. I just want to find out from you, what was the difference between yesterday and today's racing?
So obviously yesterday it was quite windy. Today it was a tailwind, so that really helped us. I think we were a lot calmer yesterday and we just got a little bit flustered. With St. Mary's coming right next to us, but I think we raced a good race and we raced as hard as we could. So.
I think yesterday, with it being a heads race, we were very much in our own race. So it was everything about what we can do as a crew, focusing on each individual aspects of our own rowing style. Today, obviously a little bit different, a little more at stake. We came in, we knew it was going to be a tough race. Us and St. Mary's were going at each other from karting champs. I'm really, really proud of the girls. We gave it everything from the word go. We knew we had to fight to get to the first corner, and us and St. Mary's fought all the way. I think there wasn't a time when we could settle. We just went from the start all the way through. And at the end of the day, St. Mary's came out on top. I'm really, really proud of those girls. They've trained so hard. Us at VLC, we training together, them on the other side, us on this side, staring each other, sussing each other out. So overall, I'm really, really proud of the girls. I'm really proud of us, each and every one of us. I know Hannah's going to carry the crew next year.
Congratulations, ladies. Fantastic race, and I wish you the best for next year as your journey continues.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you can see the nerves here. St. Stithians have gone to front stop, some quite aggressive touching up onto the line from both crews. So nerves playing, and they've gone to front stop. So this has been quite a slick, as far as A finals go. This is a very quick, slick lineup here. I think these crews are both eager to get it on.
Yeah, possibly still angling in. It looked interesting move there from St. Benedict's. One firm move up. A slightly different approach. One constantly moving, one making bigger moves, making sure they're always ready. St. Benedict's look like they're pretty alert on that start line. I think what's interesting, St. Benedict's Cox, if I understand it correctly, is an under 16 at this point, so a young guy to be at such a high level. That gives him a few years with him at this level, which is just awesome. Big bang. Out we go. St. Benedict's clean, St. Stithians clean. First couple of minutes of racing definitely going to suit St. Benedict's here. Looks like they've got their noses up going in. St. Stithians coming in tight straight away. Not happy that maybe they've gone a man down or two. Those boats are close. St. Stithians on the rudder to get back clear.
Yeah, the lights go out and away we go. St. Benedict's off to a good start. They've taken 2 or 3 men straight away. The crews came together slightly, and St. Stithians had to get on the rudder to create a little bit of that separation. But you can already see there's a little bit of overlap there. St. Stithians' bar side sitting slightly in the puddles of St. Benedict's, so that's going to make it very uncomfortable for them, especially as you try to transition onto length. I think now St. Benedict's are going to need to I think for St. Benedict's, they're in their ideal position because the shift right takes them away from the clash and onto the ideal line at this point. So they're going to have the dogleg, and St. Benedict's have really got out there with real intent. Similar to what we saw from St. Mary's earlier. They've just gone out there and they're going to lay down the gauntlet. They said, yes, maybe you did win the heads race yesterday, but the river runs through us. The road to the trophy comes through us. And so St. Benedict's absolutely laying it down, and St. Benedict's have now moved to a length. Now they start to wash, and St. Benedict's have really put on an exceptionally brave performance. I think for St. Stithians, the Cox needs to see the danger now, or are St. Stithians going to trust their rhythm and their efficiency and hope that St. Benedict's have shot their shot?
Yeah, really big first move. St. Benedict's winning the toss, taking West Bank, showing clear intent that they want to get this thing done early on. They're not here to make a spectator experience. They're here to win a boat race trophy. They've come out 90 seconds in, clear water, getting that really high intensity. Possibly years and years of St. Benedict's finals, paying dividends there. Boys understanding the intensity that this thing starts at, the intensity of the first few minutes. Those boats aren't moving hugely different boat speeds now, possibly not over, but you've got to have a lot of belief. St. Stithians number 2 man glancing over the shoulder there, starting to see the signs of doubt starting to come in. Incredibly difficult to stay positive when you're a length down on the back of a boat race like this.
Yeah, that initial straight is incredibly taxing from a mental point of view. It's really dead silence. So although it's a spectacle for us on TV, these crews are essentially a private battle. They're far away from the eyes. As the Muhammad Ali quote goes, now they're dancing under the lights, but right now they feel quite far away. And this is where those hours in the gym, the hours on the ergos, on the water, pushing out those miles, those technical sessions, sometimes those technical sessions where the coaches demand looking for that real technical perfection. And that's what these crews are going to be relying on now. As much as emotion plays a role, right now the training's taking a role, and you're just trying to be as professional, and you're just really looking to execute there. And I think that's what St. Benedict's have done exceptionally well now in this first quarter. They've really gone out there with a race plan, with a view to execute, and you can see the way that they're attacking every stroke on the front end. Not necessarily the prettiest on the front end, but you can see they get locked on and they accelerate the boat almost immediately. I think St. Stithians a little bit smoother and a little bit, you would say, a little bit slicker. They move maybe a little bit better with the boat, but I think just lacking a little bit of that aggression that St. Benedict's have.
Yeah, so we've got right now the crews are going to tuck in behind each other. St. Stithians have to really hang tough here. Try and mitigate the losses in this headwind. Potentially, up until ladies' corner, there's going to be a headwind. The only chance they've got is to run a different rhythm and possibly run a faster rhythm out of ladies' start in the tailwind. By all likelihood, it's probably St. Benedict's got a big enough gap to mitigate any chance of that. But I would say that's St. Stithians' last remaining card, is to come out of ladies' corner, have a bit of a reset as the conditions move to tail, and possibly run a different tempo than St. Benedict's. But to mentally do that from 3 lengths down is now going to be a really big ask.
And I think St. Benedict's looks like they're dusting off a play out of the Tux playbook. There was definitely a lift in tempo now. James, talk us through, Tux quite famous, especially from your era, of the minute into the first corner. Walk us through what would be the idea behind doing a big move like that?
I'd be shocked if I went back home after spilling all the beans, so we can't say too much. But certainly, it's not, these races aren't, obviously we love seeing a race like St. Albans, St. John's, but as an athlete you want to get it done, and mentally it's really a better place to race. It's when you're up. So if you can get the clear water, if you can break it, to be down is an incredibly difficult place to be. As I said, I got given my lessons from Andrew Craig. Tux definitely didn't make that strategy. Rhodes taught it to us on a hard plate. They gave it to us up there in the first 90 seconds of the race, and in the men's race, that's what it's all about. Now we get different lines coming into this corner. St. Stithians need to be aggressive. They need to cox a really good line, and in the next few seconds they're going to have to transition into tailwind rowing. So St. Benedict's absolutely have run a really good 90 seconds. They've now managed to transition from that into their rhythm, and at this point they really are on the pound seat. Their cox can take very conservative lines, and that's rightly should. They've earned the right to that. But St. Stithians should take every risk they can, every bank, hitting apexes, everything they can to see if they can bring back a length or two, transition into a tailwind rhythm, and give it one more shot coming out of lady start.
And a beautiful line taken by the St. Benedict's cox. He went out wide and then he dived in on the inside. So he's really going to have a good line now into the second bar-side corner. He's taken an exceptional line there. I think, James, you'll be very impressed with that. I think St. Benedict's, we saw the close-up shot. They really just let the boat run on nicely. The St. Stithians blade work really clean here. But St. Benedict's were just really accelerating. They're very aggressive and they let the boat run on nicely. So I think that's really standing them in good stead, because it allows them to row this aggressive up-tempo rhythm. Even if you see them paddling around Ridderplaat, you see they generally tend to maintain quite a high tempo. Even when they row in 4s and 6s, they really always have quite a focus on pushing the tempo and being very aggressive through the water.
Yeah, what we also saw there is you often get a feeling as the crew in second place, a little bit down, you feel you need to come into the corner early, and it feels like you get that advantage a little bit earlier, but the exit of the corner is where the consequence of that is. And we saw St. Stithians come into the corner, but St. Benedict stay nice and wide on the way in, and the exit was really something. And you see where it puts them in a completely different point of the river right now. A fair amount of water in there. Tide, St. Benedict's will probably be tucked out of the tide a little bit more than St. Stithians at this point, but good coxing from both of them. Nothing too wildly wrong, just slightly different approaches to the corner.
Yeah, and I think the boys in the yellow boat really have the bit between their teeth now as they start to stride out. They've started to, it's at the point now where they're not even really particularly washing St. Stithians down as they start to move a little bit further ahead, and I think that's psychologically quite a tough place to be. especially when you're behind, you almost welcome that bit of wash because it means that you are still within some sort of a contact with that other crew. But right now, you really sit in a void, and I think for St. Benedict's, this is going to be a huge energy giver. Every stroke, it's almost like you stand, like that other crew's on the, when you're up like this, it's like the other crew's on the footplate, and every stroke you take, you get a chance to stand on them and really hurt them.
Yeah, and you get a long time to watch them. They'll be in your view at this point, and you'll be very confident in every stroke, whereas the other crew will be always developing that doubt. At this point, you can see there's still a lot of acceleration coming through this boat. They're still on the front foot. They're on the gas. They're definitely not physically conservative or anything like that. They are still on the money. They want to try and make a statement here, having lost the heads race. It's very interesting. We're now heading into two finals where the crew that lost the head race really comes in and puts a dominant performance out. So, yeah, it just shows you how it's a weekend of two different halves, two different races. One is all about sort of tactics and boat speed in the final, and then the head race is all about straight line speed. Again, it looks like Stithians, they're going to shoot across the sandbank there. What's really important is if they decide to take that line across the sandbank, take it. Don't get halfway down the sandbank and then go back into the left-hand lane. It gives you the best approach into the bottom of Biscay Bay, and it's a ballsy move. If I was them, I would be running a pretty wild risk. There's a lot of water out there. There's just in front of those next jetties on the left-hand side, there's a pillar in the water. And if you're really ballsy on a big day of water, you can go on the right-hand side of that pillar if there's enough water in the bank. And if I was Saints, what do you got to lose? Worst case scenario is you put it on the sand. There are no rocks in there. So, yeah, that's what I would be doing. But I suspect what we'll see is they'll start drifting back left and go on the left-hand side of that pillar.
Yeah, I think you can see there that the St. Benedict's Cox has gone quite close there. He knows he doesn't need to take a risk, but he's definitely going to squeeze as much advantage as he can while still keeping it quite conservative. And yeah, they've really got the bit between their teeth there. I think now the game for Saints is that you've really just got to manage yourself to the corner. Say, all right, let's just work as hard as we can to the corner. We'll reassess there, but right now we really need to just put in a big shift for about, I'd break this down to about maybe 20 seconds, get to 10 minutes, from 10 minutes focus on 11 minutes. I think at the point 1 minute 30 seconds at a time, I think that's how you need to break down the race, because if you try to race, if you start thinking about any further than that, I think it can become very demoralizing.
Yeah, absolutely. Always working into your next landmark, always walking into the next corner. These boys by now, as they come past that pillar, that pillar comes into shot, fair gap there. These athletes will know all their landmarks. They will have done it for the hedge race, and it's almost now they go back into that hedge race mentality of ticking off the boxes, attacking the corner, hunting the corner, pushing the corner away as you leave it. The Coxes will definitely be talking to their crews, will be focusing on getting their will be focusing on really being focused on that next bend. You know, that's all that Cox needs to do, but at the same time, the Cox is understanding the race, deciding how aggressive he wants to be. So that Cox is really in control of holding their minds together right now. We're going to go across to an interview. Hopefully we can stay on the visuals of the boys as we watch this next race come down.
We've got our women's boat race finalists here, our winners. Well done, ladies. It's 8 years in a row. How do you feel to be able to be one of the crews to hold that legacy?
I think it's definitely very exciting to be part of the whole legacy, but also it's exciting for us, the fact that we did it.
Yeah, I think everyone in the crew had something to prove, and I think we proved it on the course today. It was good.
Obviously a very emotional finish. Yesterday you ladies came second in the heats. What do you think changed going into the final today?
As Tessa said, yesterday was a different day to today, so we just had to reset, refocus, and push and give all.
I see you're quite clever in your coxing, feeding Holy Rosary some dirty water. Was that part of your plan or just part of your lines?
No, it was definitely part of our plan. Our coach, Caitlin Dace, is very experienced in boat race, and she knows exactly what to do, and she just talked me through it beforehand.
Well done, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as we see, you can see as the fatigue starts to set in, the effect on just, if you just look at the blades, that's really one of the places where you can see the fatigue. The boys are quite well trained, especially once you get to the open level, to almost keep your face neutral, as when you start to wrinkle your face up, that's energy going into contracting those muscles. So the boys try to keep as neutral a face as possible, but if you look at the blades, you can really see the effect of the fatigue. The blade doesn't quite cut the water with that same intensity, and there's not necessarily that same bite on that initial part of the stroke.
Yeah, as we come now down at the bottom of the bay, tailwind all the way through there, the boys, it's a long paddle, eh? It's a long way out there to be. The Stithians guys will now be really wanting this just to be over, I suspect. They've had an amazing weekend. They've certainly put their name down as one of the big contenders for the year. I think they've had a great heads race. They'll obviously be disappointed winning a heads race, not getting through here. But, you know, they've still got a bit of paddling to do. It's a hard place to be. You learn a lot about yourself in the middle of Biscay Bay when you're down. That's for sure. Two characters are showing out here. But that's it. That's boat race, and that's what makes this quite so special. You know, the Cox has probably got the hardest job of those athletes right now, to keep talking to them. He's only got so many times he can play the card that they've caught a crab or they've lost a bit of ground and they're coming back. So he'd probably want to keep his cookies dry for another race at this point. And St. Benedict's, we saw the disaster strike with St. Albans. Very conservative lines is what I would expect all the way down from here.
Yeah, and I think when St. Benedict's chatting to their coach and their manager, their coach Chris Painter and their manager Darren Roth, I think they said when they looked at they said initially they were a little bit disappointed, but when they looked at the GPS data through of the race, they felt that it was just the last third of the race that they didn't quite execute from Biscay to the finish. That was the part of the race that they didn't quite execute. So I think the plan going into today was to really try and put together complete performance, and I think despite being up, I think that's what those boys are going to really be trying to do now. It's not so much about the other crew. I think they in the back of their mind they've got it wrapped up, but now they're going to look to really stamp the authority and really put together that complete performance. It's always nice to win a race with your best performance. Sometimes you don't have your best race, but you can win a race. But right now, especially on a race like boat race, some of these guys will never get this chance again, and they're going to want to make sure that they've ticked that box of, I've had my best race ever and I won.
Yeah, it's exactly right. You know, we've also got to remember St. Stithians, a masterclass in the heads race yesterday, overtaking 4 boats. I mean, that was a really impressive. You've got to wiggle around those boats, find your way, and they came out with the fastest time. So you always wonder if that exertion may have affected them in their race today. But at the same time, St. Benedict's, they've got pedigree, they've got a history behind them. But at the same time, you come out, it's square day, brand new, and you've got to lay it all out on the line. They won the coin toss. They got to choose the West Bank, and they came out all guns blazing.
Yeah, I think to borrow a phrase from MMA, in MMA they say some people want to make it an arm wrestle, but you've got to remember every round starts on the feet. And I think St. Benedict's really, when the round started on the feet, they came out and threw some haymakers. So St. Benedict's now really starting to eat out across. I think they're going to want to look to try and make it 40 seconds. I think now they're racing the clock, they're racing history. They want to get their names on the trophy. I think maybe James can speak. James and me spoke about it earlier about how you can win the race. Some crews are winning the race on the bank with their ability to recover and their composure and their crew management.
Yeah, I think they put a good weekend together. They weren't that pumped up after the heats. They'd obviously made it. They were probably a little bit disappointed. We saw them in the boatyard for a good half an hour after the race, washing down boats. So they were calm. You know, they knew that this is where the final. Probably that experience of quite a few of the guys done regattas overseas, maybe a little bit more crew experience there as well than Saints, to understand that the weekend is really about this afternoon. And I think that ship in the background of St. Benedict's is quite a thing. They have multiple staff down here. I know, Mo, you've been assisting the team as well. You've dashed off once or twice from here just to make sure the guys are part of that recovery is happening. So Yeah, the ship in the background of St. Benedict's is quite a thing. I remember when we were discussing for the Tux coach, I was involved in that, and it was just amazing to see how many coaches were, like great coaches, were in that St. Benedict setup, and it starts all the way down in the younger age groups, and that shows when they get up here, they can bring a bigger coaching team down here, more experienced hands at the ship, and that's what it really takes to win boat races, a team in the background managing a great team on the water. And yeah, I think St. Benedict's have probably done a pretty good job of that this weekend. Their base has been pretty calm. Watching them in the corner of the boatyard, our commentary booth has overlooked it, and it's been, interesting to see a very calm, steady approach to a boat race weekend, and it clearly pays, eh?
Yeah, and I think now that it looks like they've got it wrapped up, barring disaster here. Let's talk some facts, some trivia, some legacy.
Have you done some maths? Is what you've done?
No, James. We won't go into your St. Andrews. St. Andrews have provided such great coverage. We won't go into that. I think let's talk about the individuals a little bit here. I think we emphasize the machine and the team and the school all behind it. How many athletes are you aware of that have won consecutive boat races while at school? First year, second open. I can imagine St. Andrews when they were in their pomp, and then it's generally quite difficult to win. From my memory, I think I can really think of Chris Baxter, Damien Bunakun from Cares, maybe James Mitchell and Dan Carter. No, James Mitchell and Dan Carter not.
Well, are you talking about multiple back-to-backs?
Back-to-back, yeah.
No, I think the real challenge is how many guys have got 3. Yeah, that's a challenge. I managed to get 2. There were a couple of us back in my era that we got 2. I got 2 golds and a silver at boat race, and there were a few guys around that generation that got it. There was one guy in St. Andrews that got 3 SA Champs gold medals, but he was an under-16 fill-in on an accident that happened at the start line of SA Champs, so he didn't actually race boat race that year. So I don't know how many guys have got 3, but I reckon if you went back through the books, you would find 1 or 2 guys who've got either an SA Champs rack of 3 or a boat race rack of 3.
So you reckon that the big winner of today is Rhett Zillen then?
Is this his third?
It's
Second.
his first.
It's his first.
So he'll get another 2 chances. I think the toughest part about winning 3 is getting the third chance.
Absolutely, you got to get your first one when you're still in under 16. That's the big challenge, and he's got a target ahead of him. As far as I got 2 golds and a silver, and I'm not sure of anyone who's got 3 golds. So yeah, he's got an opportunity there. Same thing with Keith Ross, who got the 3 SA Champs golds for St. Andrews. He got his first one as under 16. So absolutely, he's got himself a chance. He's got himself a sniff. But yeah, there's a lot of rowing that has to come between him and 3 golds in the future.
As we see the Stithians coaches, they've just arrived back in the boat park. Their coach, Atin Kosi Lakani, a little bit disappointed, but a happy-go-lucky guy by nature. I think he'll be very proud of his boys where they've come. I think he's had a relatively short time to work with them, and I think he'll be very happy with how far they've come in the time that they've had. And I think them and St. Benedict's they'll definitely use this as motivation come December, January. The ergo machines will get packed up into the cars and they'll go on holiday, and I think this will definitely provide them a lot of motivation over the holiday period, and when they and I think Stithians will be a contender come March.
Yeah, nothing's more dangerous than an angry athlete, eh? Athletes training with a purpose, training with a hunger. That's what it needs. These guys are going to go in December. It's probably the hardest block of training for schoolboy rowing. All your mates are wanting to party a little bit more, and you need to be balanced between those two things. And guys are going into their Christmas holidays, and it's really, how much of Champs is won in December. These guys are going to be disappointed for a day or 2, but their minds will very quickly, even our minds are really going forward to SA Champs. Let's see what happens. Sachs, I think, are going to be dangerous come SA Champs. They've also got a lot of hunger, a lot of a 3rd place, but they would have wanted to be in that final, and really appetizing what tees up from now to March.
Yeah, and I think if you look at Sachs, the athletes that they have in that boat, possibly better suited, the bigger athletes, better suited to the 2K, more of a sprint, a shorter distance, it's more of a power game. So I think, Sachs definitely. I think Jeppy, it'll be interesting to see what progress they can make going forward. St. Albans will drop the sculling blades back off in the shed and put the boat back in the cover and go and grab their single sculls and go have some fun now. I think back to the sculls for them.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that's the sort of thing. A lot of those St. Albans guys go back into the quads. This is the one weekend we see, as you say, it doesn't matter it doesn't affect you under 16s to pull them up at this stage. So St. Albans go back into possibly the smaller boats. I know lots of us would like to see them rumble the 8 at SA Champs, and maybe AJ will eventually get that right, but the long school traditions going on there. But awesome to see St. Stithians back. It's been a while. back in the day when I was coming through, they were the powerhouse crew, often winning the 2K stuff. They really battled at the boat race, but a powerhouse crew of generations gone past, and awesome to see them getting back on top and becoming one of the big names in the boys' sport.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I think a big thing to note is that a lot of the Benedict's athletes, especially, were coached by Ati, the Saints coach, when they were under 16s. So he's almost played a role in developing the crew that won, and I think Chris Painter has done also an exceptional job coming across from Jeppe. Big shoes to fill, and he's done an exceptional job of getting his crew ready. I think staying exceptionally calm throughout the weekend. I think he's and the madness ends for 2022. We see crews now filing into the boatyard. The boatyard relatively empty at this point. Boats going into bags, some final rinsing before they go home. The riggers coming off, everything getting packed away at this point. I think at this point the coaches will let the athletes off the leash a bit. Obviously times have changed, so the boys will be in their rooms tonight. They'll be enjoying each other's company, and I think there's nothing quite like that feeling after a hard regatta where you've gone out there. Sometimes you've achieved the goals, you haven't, but just to be able to spend time with your mates. I think the memories that these guys write, that they've built here, these are the memories that they'll see each other in the street 20, 30, 40 years from now, and they won't really need to say a lot to each other after the experience that they've had. They'll just look at each other in the eye, and there'll be a look, and that's all it takes, just a look, and they'll remember just how special some of these days in their life are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is where memories are made, reputations start right here. You know, it's incredible to see those young boys. St. Stithians getting off the water now after having done a cool down. You know, it's a professionalism. You do your A finals, you then go and have a cool down, bring the boys in. So they're dejected, but at the same time, they should be proud for having done a fantastic race, a good race yesterday, and a solid race today.
Yeah, and I think just little things like that with Stithians, that exceptional professionalism to go the cool down. I think what that does is gives the crew a little bit of time to reflect, and it really lets them hit the reset button so they come off the water. And for them, their training for January will start as soon as that boat is de-rigged and on the trailer. Tomorrow morning, the training for SA Champs starts.
Yeah, no, it's a good attitude for the boys to come out. You know, we saw how sad they are. We're looking at Sheldon Krishnasamy, lovely guy, you know, and a lot of passion. He's bringing it into the St. Stithians boat. They were sad for having finished second, but at the same time, it shows you the amount of effort that they put in. Now, this is always the wobbly bits. I see the boys getting off, and you know, sometimes you see the legs buckle as you get off. But they've done their cool down. They're professionals, and they're getting ready for 2023.
Yeah, I think whether you win and whether you lose, the cow must have its pound of flesh.
Yeah, the cow is as we've spoken about all weekend, the cow is an animal, and the cow has taken some scalps out there, certainly made some hard racing. It's hard to race when you're down, but it's also made a lot of memories. And as you were mentioning earlier, you know, these guys will remember the races they've had. Whenever they see each other, even when they're all like me, I'll see my schoolmates who I rode with, and it's very lacquer. You know, they've all dispersed around the world, but when we see each other, we still talk about Kawi. We talk about even the whole build-up. You know, the stuff that happened in the chalets, the stuff that happened all the way through the week. To go on tour with 15 of your mates, 10 of your mates, whatever it works out at, is just really, really cool, and it's a special time. And it's a great opportunity all these kids have got to come down here and race boat race and be part of the next year of the history of the South African Schools boat race.
Yeah, and I think what you really see, and I think the coverage helps, is this is just an amazing sport, and I think all the efforts are great. So if you have watched the Super Sports Schools feed this weekend, you're not really sure about rowing, but if you go to any of these schools, please pop down, go find out where the ergo room is. Hopefully they don't make you pull in a 2K ergo trial straight away to see what you're made of. But if you are at a rowing school and you'd like to try it, please go and do so. If you are not at a rowing school, go find your local club. If you're in Johannesburg, you want to go to VLC, Germiston Lake in the layman's terms. And then if you're in Pretoria, you can go to any of the rowing schools. They'll direct you where you need to go. Rudderplaat Dam, there's a rowing club there. There's the there's a university boat club. All the major universities have boat clubs. Wits, Tux, UJ, UCT, NMMU, and a big thank you to Standard Bank, St Andrews College, and a huge thanks to the organizer of this regatta, Ed Goodyear. He's really gone over and above. Prize giving will be at 5, and a huge thank you to Ed Goodyear, who's gone, and the Supersport Schools team, who've gone over and above to really ensure that the coverage of this event is top notch. It's a real professional quality production, and it's been a pleasure to be able to talk you through the weekend.
Fantastic. Thank you all for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again next year, if not for SA Champs.
Cool. Cheers, everybody. Have a lovely December holiday.
Good afternoon. There we go. A bit better there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think we'd like to get going with the prize giving now. I think we have all the athletes here out behind us, so we'll make a start. Ladies and gentlemen, parents, spectators, coaches, athletes, everyone who's come to play a part over this last weekend, welcome. It's been an incredible 2 days of racing through the heats and through the finals today, and I think, like never before, we've seen the strength and depth of school rowing in South Africa. We've had a record entry this year, both the boys event and the girls event, which is fantastic to see. And I think that alone is really worth a round of applause for all those crews who got to. So the fact that we managed to get so many of those athletes here, I think really pays testament to the dedication of those athletes concerned especially, but also let's remember their coaches, and of course I think the parents, many of whom are here obviously as well, and I'm sure a lot of undying support from parents who've taken the time as well to be down here. So to all those people who are behind the athletes, I think let's also give them a little round of applause. So before we begin with the formalities of prize giving, just another couple of thank yous as well. So to make this event happen, there's a lot of people behind the scenes who are working incredibly hard to make it happen. So firstly, we have, there's a parent body from St Andrews College Rowing Club who've put in a lot of work, especially on the spectator side and also looking after the officials. So I'd really like to recognise their input and all their weeks of hard work which has gone into this regatta. So to the St Andrews parents, thank you. Secondly, I think the Supersport schools, your coverage over the last 2 years and really stepping it up another level this year has really taken this event to another level. So it's been fantastic to have Supersport schools along, getting some amazing footage of the rowing, and we hope that relationship continues and we can build on that and really make this a showpiece of South African rowing. And then to the officials. Obviously, without officials, we wouldn't have an event which runs on time and just all the aspects behind the scenes to make everything on the water happen. So we've got groups of officials who've come from around the country, from the Western Cape, from Gauteng, from the Eastern Cape as well, all volunteering, even from Kenton-on-Sea. So I think in total, the volunteers and officials behind the scenes running the show gets to about 25, 30 people to make this regatta happen. And we're incredibly grateful for them giving up of their time over the last few days. So a round of applause for the officials, please. So lastly, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Standard Bank, who have now, for their 7th year, put their support behind this event. For all of those previous things, for the officials, for the Supersport, everything we've been able to put together, that's really thanks to Standard Bank and their ongoing support. If we can just give Standard Bank a round of applause for their support for the event. We're going to get going with the prize game. I'd like to welcome Jacko Marie, who is Chair of the St Andrews College Council and Deputy Chairman of Standard Bank. Thank you, Jacko, for coming on behalf of the sponsors.
Thank you.
So we're going to start with the junior women's event, and the winners of the bronze medal in the junior women's event, St Stithians Girls College. Well done. In the junior men's events, Stithians. Title back home to Bedford View for what is, I think, a fourth consecutive time, St Benedict. Thank you once again for coming back to conclude this year's event. Hope to see many of you back here next year. Thank you. I just want to say a huge thank you to the Master Sergeant Brian, which is College and Christie, so he's really pulled this off again.